Hello, I'm Dr. Cathleen Fleck. I am an art historian, and my primary area of study and research and teaching is in medieval art history around the Mediterranean. I am an associate professor here in the Department of Fine and Performing Arts in the art history program, and I've been here at St. Louis University this is my 13th year. And I've been chair of the department as well, and this is my 5th year doing that job. My own work thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion started in my personal life rather than my professional life. So being a parent was really where I started to think about these issues in my students' schools and looking at issues of equity and inequity in schools and just seeing the systems of public schools, et cetera, was really a place that was learning for me. And luckily, my kids' school was very active in helping parents think about these issues. So there were workshops for parents about bias. I was involved in community reading clubs, reading books such as Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. So things like that that started me personally actually thinking about these issues. And then I kind of moved more into my professional life in terms of thinking about what is my place in working in DEI issues. There was a key moment for me in thinking about what my role could be professionally in thinking about this, and that was actually attending the Martin Luther King breakfast in, I think it was 2018, I think it might have been maybe 2019, when Roland Martin was speaking. He's a journalist, activist, and he sort of said, I'm here to make you all a little uncomfortable, and I'm going to challenge you. And he asked everybody in the room to think about what could they do in their own lives that could address issues of inequity, of challenges across society. And it charged me to think a little bit, and I realized that sort of one area I felt I could make a difference was in my own professional world in a couple of different ways. So the first way was just in my teaching. No, I shouldn't say just, because I think it's super important. In my teaching, I decided I needed to be more deliberate in terms of bringing in different perspectives. And that was something that actually was not necessarily evident because in medieval art, in the study of medieval art, largely it's been white males from Europe who have created that field. So to think deliberately outside of that and find authors and find perspectives that were not necessarily from that Eurocentric kind of dated direction was really important and not impossible, because actually that was happening in other areas of my research as well. I bring that into my teaching as well. So I teach classes like that where students are asked to look at a place. In fact, I teach about Jerusalem, but other issues related to the whole Mediterranean region and the Middle East from different perspectives. And often specifically asking students to step into somebody else's shoes of a different identity. And that helps me to do the same in terms of my teaching and then my research, sort of understanding my perspective as a sort of white, privileged person of the United States is not going to be the same as everyone else's. And it's particularly as our students, I have found, are so thoughtful about these things. They're very receptive to thinking about these issues. It's really enjoyable to bring these topics into the classroom. And then in my research, I find it really rewarding because I am crossing borders that are not always crossed. Usually there's kind of someone who's an Islamic art historian or someone who's a more Western European art historian, and they have different conferences. They have different sessions in conferences even. But I'm crossing borders by bringing those together, and I'm going to both of those conferences to learn from them and sort of say, hey, I'm here to be kind of that person in between and to push boundaries, et cetera. So that's another way that I have done that in terms of my teaching and research. And then lastly, I would say as a leader, particularly as a chairperson of the Fine and Performing Arts Department, I thought, how can I make a difference here? And leading discussions about who we are as a department. We're talking about changing our name, in fact, to reflect what we feel will be a more inclusive name for all of the different disciplines of the studies that we represent and that our students represent. And then also to think about other ways that we can be addressing DEI topics in our department. So we are doing things like the theater program is having an annual artist come in, usually a director, but other kinds of theater artists as well, of different backgrounds that we just have not had represented in our staff and in our faculty before. We're also working with the development office to bring in some scholarships that will hopefully allow students of lesser advantaged backgrounds be able to come in and study at SLU. The key advice I would have, well, first of all, I'm an historian, so I always do look at history. I think knowing your history, knowing the place where you are, and our city here has a lot of conflict that's been a part of it, and understanding that history is a really important thing. And then leaning into and to thinking about, as Roland Martin said, sort of what can you do in your world? I mean, you can't change everything, but what can you do in your world? What conversation can you lean into? You might be uncomfortable, but that's okay. That's how you learn. And I've been kind of enjoyed stepping back instead of always being the expert. Now I'm the learner in this. I have a lot to learn still. And recognizing that that's okay, because sometimes professors, they just want to be the experts. But we don't have to be the experts about everything. And so learning and opening yourselves up to different possibilities, just picking up some books. There's some incredible books that are being written out there. Right now I'm reading Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, and there's a movie about that's right now. It is just an incredible look at sort of the understanding of what systemic racism can do to a society, or to multiple societies for that matter. So just thinking, opening up your mind to different perspectives, I would say, is an important thing.